Hey, good morning, fellas. It is day 16 of the Warriors Redemption Beta program. Good morning to you. We are on, we're entering the last 2 weeks here, fellas. I'm almost a little bit sad about it. I really enjoyed this time with you and being able to share all these things that have brought great meaning and joy to my life and peace to my life here. And I hope that you're starting to experience some of those fruits here as well. So, as we're continuing on with our theme for week 3, you must choose. That's our theme for week 3. I want to introduce a whole new concept of positive psychology to you. Now, some of you may be familiar with this already, but I think it's an important piece in terms of our theme for the week of you must choose. Because when we're choosing, we want to make choices, we want to make decisions that are going to move us towards the great vice the good, okay? And so we often have a lot of paths, a lot of choices that are presented in front of us. And it can be difficult to discern which is good, which is bad even, and which is great. But to the greatest extent possible, we want to make decisions that are going to compel us, that are going to move us towards that great. So one of the ways of being able to discern this is having a great super unknown goal, right? We want to be able to hold our decisions up to that super unknown goal and be able to say, okay, are these decisions going to be moving me towards that super unknown goal or not? But a thing that I think has been very helpful for me in my life has been all the advances that they're starting to make in this understanding of well-being, the science of well-being. And this is this whole movement of positive psychology, still relatively new in the world of psychology, right? And how's it transformational? Well, the traditional notion of psychology has been, how do we minimize human suffering? How do we minimize human suffering? And so what that means is winning in this traditional mode of psychology is moving somebody from a -6 to a -2, or moving somebody from a -10 to a -8, or from a -2 back to a 0, and 0 being I can get through life and I can survive, right? But I mean, if you're moving from a -6 to a -2, you're still at a -2, right? And who wants to be at a -2? And so where positive psychology has been very transformational and is really revolutionary in the world of psychology is it's starting to ask the questions, well, how do we get beyond the 0? How do we move somebody from a -2 to a +4? Or from a +4 to a +10? Gosh, how do we move from being mentally broken, not just to a place of mental health, but to a place of mental thriving and mental and emotional thriving here. And so one of the books that I'm drawing from here is the book Flourish. You can get it yourself, and I advise you take a look at this book. I've listened to it and returned to a lot of articles through listened to it online and listened to it on my Audible app here. But the Dr. Martin Seligman from the University of Pennsylvania breaks down well-being, okay, which is really what we're pursuing with positive psychology. And so if we're going to be pursuing well-being, well, how do we define well-being? He breaks it down into 5 elemental areas. And he uses the acronym PERMA, which is going to be the focus of our lesson here today. What does PERMA stand for? And those being the elemental levels of well-being, which means if we're seeking these things, we're contributing to an experience, a state of well-being, and we're putting ourselves in experiences that are contribute to a state of well-being. And we certainly want our super unknown goals to place us into a state of greater well-being, or why would we be pursuing that? Okay, so what are these 5 things? The first one is P, positive emotions. So Martin Seligman will say that we seek certain things, we do certain things, we just make certain decisions because of the emotions that they bring to us. So this is kind of a very elemental level. There's not a whole lot of meaning that goes into the positive emotions, but nonetheless, it's something that is a factor within our well-being. We want to be experiencing positive emotions, and that's certainly associated with being in a place of well-being. So that's the P. The E stands for engagement. And so what do we mean by engagement? Well, engagement means that we're engaging in activities that are putting us in a place of flow, that are putting us in this place of where I'm so focused, I'm so present with what I'm doing right now that I have no anxiety about the future, no anxiety about the past. I'm just present. And for me, guys, Something that puts me in a place of engagement, a place of flow, is when I'm singing, particularly if I'm singing at church. So I'm in a praise and worship group, and I love singing, fellas. And when I'm here and I'm singing with this group of people, that hours pass and it feels like minutes, right? And I'm just in this place of, it's not necessarily like, there's certainly some positive emotions, but I'm not even conscious of the positive emotions at the moment. I'm just so present at that moment. And so whatever that is in your life, where you can be in that place where time flies and you're not even aware of it, and you can just be so hyper focused on that you're not necessarily feeling any anxiety for the future, for the past. That's something that contributes to your overall well-being. Okay, so that's the E, engagement. R stands for our relationships. And we can certainly pursue relationships because they put us in a place of engagement or put us in a place of having positive emotion. And so even Dr. Martin Seligman looks at this and questions whether or not it's really an elemental level of PERMA, and something that we seek as an end in and of itself. But we can't deny that entering into a relationship, pursuing communion with other people, is something that's so elemental to the human experience. And so when we're pursuing relationships, it's not just these surface level relationships that contribute to well-being, but really deep, intimate relationships where there's transparency, right? There's intimacy that's there. And that, the more we start to maximize the intimacy of our relationships, we start to put ourselves in a place of greater well-being. And it's not necessarily more relationships, it's not having the 2,000 friends on Facebook, but maybe even having those 2, 3, 6 intimate relationships in our lives where we can just be present with those people. So that's the R. The M stands for meaning, and this should be a familiar one for us here, fellas, being veterans or being people that are first responders. Doing those activities that are contributing to something that is greater than ourselves. So beyond just our own personal emotions or our own drive for personal achievement or relationships, doing those things that are contributing to something greater than ourselves. The more we can do activities that have great meaning assigned to them, it brings us to a place of greater well-being. It moves us from that place, 0 to a 10, right? That's the goal here. Finally, the A stands for achievement. So we've got our super unknown goals. We're pursuing those things as an end, and we know that when we arrive at those things, and we put all the blood, the sweat, the toil, the tears, the hard work into getting there, when we arrive at a place of achievement, there's something that just contributes to this experience of well-being in our lives. And I would say that it's not necessarily arriving at the goal, because people can use achievement as something that doesn't necessarily contribute to well-being in their lives, right? How many people do you know that seek achievement to prove that they're good, or seek achievement to prove to themselves that they're good? That's not necessarily seeking achievement as a way that contributes to well-being. In fact, that could be seeking achievement for something that brings us from a 0 to a -2, right? But achievement, if we look at achievement as I'm seeking growth, which is really what we're doing here, fellas, like this is contributing to achievement. The things that come along with achievement are growth in our knowledge, growth in our relationships, growth in our wisdom, growth in our capacity to be gift to other people. That's even going to be a focus of one of our particular lessons later on this week. How do we move to that place of being a greater gift? But achievement, fellas, is something that, again, contributes to that science of well-being, that experience of well-being. So that's PERMA. P, positive emotion. E, engagement. R, relationship. M, meaning. And A, achievement. Is this an exhaustive list? Could there be things that are added to this list? You look at different books that are written on these things. Some people have different acronyms to it. I think Martin Seligman's is a great place to start, but take it to discernment, fellows. The activity for your workbook today is actually taking your super unknown goal and holding it up to this metric of PERMA, right? How's a super unknown goal that once you get there, how's it achieving to your positive emotion, your engagement, putting you in a place of flow, building intimacy in your relationships, contributing to meaning in your life, and putting you and bringing you closer to achievement. So that's the activity today. Dive into it, fellas. Look forward to the lessons coming on this week. But it's, again, our theme this week is you must choose, right? You must choose. And we want to be able to understand what is good so that we can choose what is good. We want to even more so be able to identify what is great so we can choose what is great. All right, fellas, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.